Welcome and hello to everybody for this new webinar hosted by the forum Hydrogen Business for Climate. It's the fourth and last one before our physical event, which is scheduled at the end of September. So during 1 hour and a half, we're going to discuss new skills. That means jobs and competencies for the hydrogen industry. We're going to discover the panelists of this session. We have people coming from several countries, France, but also Scotland and the UK. Time to display this slide. We have several speakers today. We have speakers coming from companies such as Teamview, which is a producer of fuel cells. We have also a startup, which is a French company called Life. We have, of course, also Rougeot Energy, which is a subsidiary of a group in construction works called Rougeot. It's in the region of Bourgogne-Franche-Comté. We have education authorities. We have the association France Hydrogène as well. You can read the names and the occupation of all that people. And we have, as usual, Bruno Jamet from the Vehicle of the Future cluster to moderate the Q&A session. And we start with the first part of this webinar, an insight on the situation in Europe. And I would like to welcome Diana Rain. She's in the UK. Diana is working for E4Tech company, which is a consulting company. And you're going to introduce what we call the FCHO, the observatory from the FCHGU, which is, as we all know, a public partnership in Europe around fuel cells and hydrogen. So the floor is yours, Diana.
Thank you, Laurent. Good morning, everybody. My name is Diana Rain. I'm an associate consultant for E4Tech, the sustainability consultancy. I'm talking, as Laurent explained, on the FCHO, or the observatory, which is an initiative instigated by and owned by the FCHJU. So could you go to the first slide, please? Good, thank you. So, so what is the FCHO? It's an online portal. It is our vision for the FCHO is to become a single go-to source of information for points of reference for up-to-date and relevant information for everything in the sector of hydrogen and fuel cells. So our ambition is to try to encompass data and information that's relevant for us, a broader stakeholder base as possible. So policymakers, national and international policymakers, the education sector, investors, industry players, and the general public as well. So the portal, the observatory is in 6 chapters. You can see the chapters there. I'm going to very briefly run through them just to give you a flavour for the content on there, and then I'm going to focus on the education and training part. I should say our ambition here is to ultimately be a global resource, but we've been running for about 2.5 years. The observatory was launched last September, and the content on there at the moment is predominantly European, but we would like to expand it and encompass as much of the industry and the space as possible. Next slide, please. So, as I say, 6 chapters. First chapter is on technology and market, and it is focused on deployments. So we have user-friendly charts and graphs throughout the portal. We allow users to download the raw data behind it wherever it's possible to do so. Sometimes we're bound by confidentiality and can't do that. But throughout the portal, if you go and look, you'll see the same sort of imagery. In technology and market, we are focusing on deployments, as I said, so that is number of shipments of fuel cells, hydrogen supply, where the plants are, what the capacity is, where that hydrogen is going, so where it's used in industry predominantly at the moment. We have a section on the hydrogen refueling stations, so we link to the HRS availability system, and there we can see data on individual refueling stations. We also use that data to create historical information, so we can look at trends of deployments and how well countries are heading towards their own commitments. In a similar way, we have fuel cell vehicle deployments, and we work with EAFO, which is the European Alternative Fuels Observatory, to collate that information. And then finally, in this sector at the moment, we have a company directory which has company level detail for lots and lots of players throughout the entire supply chain. One thing I wanted to point out about this section is this is how it exists today, but the observatory is intended to be a live portal, an evolving portal, and move with the industry. One of the aspirations is to collect socio-economic data within this sector, and that would be relating to jobs and how jobs in the sector are evolving. So I'll come back to that a bit later. Next slide, please. Sorry, can we skip over this one because I've touched on it already? We'll go to the next one. Yep, so we have the section on national policies, and here we have collated all relevant policies in the sector, both on a European and on a national level. And users can go in and they can search for information, policy information specific to a part of the marketplace that they might be looking at. Behind this presentation and these searches that you can do on the portal in the policy section is an extensive questionnaire which was conducted using our national correspondents. So these are people who are within the individual regions who are tasked with getting down into the detail of some of the policy trends, etc. Next slide, please. Standards, we have a section on standards, and again, behind this is another database. This is produced for us by NEN, and behind here, users can search for relevant standards on particular topics, and we cover standards that are in draft and are in publication. You can see on the slide the type of information that a user can retrieve. And you can, wherever possible, we put the appropriate hyperlinks. So in this instance, we would have a link directly to the standard. And potentially, if a TCO exists, we would link to that as well. Next slide, please. So patents and publications section is really looking as a market indicator of how the market is developing, particularly around R&D. And it's used as an indicator of growth and development of the marketplace. So we're tracking patents and publications in the sector. We use information for publications. We use information from the TIMS system, TIMS system, and if you're familiar with it. And in the patent section, we are using HDF, who is a recognised patent attorney in the fuel cell and hydrogen space, and they use commercial databases to collect information on patents. And again, you can see a map version, but there's alternative views that you can look at, which will show trends and bar charts based on particular searches that you might do. Next section, please. And this is the last one before we get to the education and training piece. This is a financial support tool. Users can input ideas for projects, and they can retrieve information on potential funding sources for these projects. It's based on an AI interface, artificial intelligence interface. It's not just a keyword search. So it effectively, there's no static database behind this. It works in real time. So it will hold up-to-date information on available funding courses as and when they come out. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. So we have the chapter on education and training, and this has been evolving over the last year. We did a preliminary update. We did a preliminary exercise around collecting data in November, and based on those findings, we refined the questionnaire that we used, and we refined the way that we presented the data. So we now have a live version, if you like. So the data here or the chapter of education and training is split into two parts. We have a repository for training materials, and we have a database of training courses. So on the screen, you can see how the educational materials look. Where you can go in and you can search by various criteria to see what information is out there that you can access. We don't hold the data, the presentation, the slides, the material itself on the portal, but we provide hyperlinks directly to those sources. We are updating this as we go, but there is a one big exercise that's completed on a data collection piece throughout the entire portal, which is done on an annual basis. Next slide, please. So what we're aiming to provide is a searchable database of training courses for the fuel cell and hydrogen sector. This chapter of the portal is owned by Hydrogen Europe Research, and they've conducted all the work around data collection, and then we've worked with our IT providers to present it on the portal. So the way we've approached it is through this rather extensive questionnaire that has gone out to the audience that you can see there. We started with the Hydrogen Europe Research membership, and then we expanded it as far as we could. We are reliant on those organisations completing the questionnaire to enable us to upload the data. But we're very pleased with the amount of response that we've had so far. It's not exhaustive, and we're very much welcoming any other sources or any other routes to accessing this information to make this part of the portal as valuable as possible. Next slide, please. So we've now, as I say, completed the full our first full year of data collection just a couple of months ago. The types of courses that have emerged within the database are professional and vocational training courses were added this time. They were not included in our November trial run, but so they now sit alongside what you might expect around bachelor, master, postdoctorates, doctorates, etc. We've categorized the training in the categories that you can see on the screen, and this is just to facilitate a search function to make it easier, because otherwise we have a very long list of courses that are available. So this is just a way to narrow that down to be relevant to individuals' needs. Next slide, please. So just some findings and some comments. Most of the respondents that we have come from research and training organisations and universities, but we do have responses from companies and professional training organisations and the things that the delivery partners that you can see on there. We have within the database 372 courses identified across 18 countries, which we're pleased about, but we are, as I say, we know that's not exhaustive, and we're very open to including new contributions to the portal. Next slide, please. So the types of training that just to give you a flavour of what we're seeing, so more than 50% of the training courses that we have surveyed are masters or professional. You can see the split on the screen there. Next slide, please. And just another interesting distribution of courses here based on the number of training courses available in each of the geographies. The top ranking countries are listed there. Next slide, please. So within the data collection, we have asked for indication of the content of the courses. So obviously you can sometimes tell from the name what's in there, but we've tried to delve a little bit deeper. And this is just to try and give an indication of the current most in demand. I'm not sure they're necessarily the most important, but certainly the most in demand topics within specific training courses. It's fairly broad, but I expect as we continue to do this year on year, do this exercise, I would expect that perhaps this changes as the market develops and perhaps the needs of the users develop. Next slide, please. So just to give you a feel looking forward, this is kind of our first year for the education and training part. We want to widen the database. We want to reach more respondents and get more people to input information around their available training courses. We also want to widen the analysis, so our intention is to delve a bit deeper in terms of the content of the course and be able to interrogate whether something is a small proportion or a large proportion of a course. We want to be able to analyse what the course is leading to, both in terms of job function and potentially the type, the area within the value chain. Sorry, the area within the value chain that it's targeting. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier on, we are looking at socioeconomic indicators, and we want to combine or synthesize parts of the technology and market chapter with the education and training chapter to be able to look at how skills are developing, where the skill gaps are as the market itself moves towards commercialization. So I hope that's given you a flavour of what the observatory is about. I would very much encourage you to go and take a look, and very much welcome feedback, and there's lots of mechanisms to do that. You can email into the observatory, you can give feedback on the portal itself, so please do go and take a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana, for this presentation. As you have said, it's been created only a few months ago. What has been the reaction of the hydrogen industry and all the authorities or organizations involved in this business?
I mean, overwhelmingly positive, I would say. It's very broad. I think of particular interest is there's two parts that stand out to me that we've had the most inquiries about and feedback on, and that is the technology and market, to be able to go and look and get accurate data on how the market is evolving and all aspects of the market in one place. And then the other piece has been the education and training part, has received tremendous interest and feedback and response. So I think it really is filling a need that is out there for stakeholders to go and look where they can get further training and further information generally across the market.
Okay, thank you. I would like to have the reaction of Rasheed from Teamview. He's the director for human resources at this company. We're going to present the Teamview H2 Academy later on, but I would like you to know what you think of this observatory.
Thank you very much. Yeah, for the invitation. I mean, once we have this presentation, it is a kind of matter of fact that hydrogen is a strong option to decarbonize the mobility, and we will have in the coming months, in the coming years, an acceleration of this transition. Once we have said that, we will need people, we will need talent, and those talents will play a key role in that transition and its acceleration. And this is why we need to prepare this transition by now, because we are already starting to recruit talent, experts, and those experts we need to train and to share their expertise for people that will be still recruited in the coming months and years, and students that will come in the market in the coming years also. And this is what we have been preparing with the Teamview Hydrogen Academy, and that we will present to you later.
Okay, I would like to hear now from Jim Brown. He's the director of ESP Scotland. He will be speaking in a few minutes, but I think, Jim, if you can activate your camera and microphone, of course, you might be interested, but we all seen in this presentation.
Yes, there's some real synergies with what you have going on with the observatory and what we're trying to achieve in Scotland. Even down to the database of the course provision, we're capturing that at the moment. We're developing new curriculum. We're looking at the tie across the colleges, universities, but industry, and aligning with government policy. So I think there's maybe a conversation to be had after this and joining things up.
That would be fantastic, Jim. That would be great.
Okay, I'm happy that you have made connection. I would like to now turn the floor to Bruno Jamet from the cluster Vehicle of the Future. Do we have some questions from the audience?
Yes, only one question. The question is how up to date is the site, because it's very recent and already very complete?
Yeah, so different parts of the site we're able to update at different times. There is one annual data collection cycle, which we've just completed and updated the entire site. But parts of it are real time, parts of it are updated quarterly, and sort of the bigger databases, I would say, so the national policies exercise and the standards exercise is definitely an annual piece of work. But with the education and training part, we are trying to, because we're right at the start and we're just collecting the data, we want to, once we've got enough to update, we can update that regularly. The intention is for it to be as dynamic as is practically possible.
Thank you.
Okay.
We carry on now with the next part of this event. It's focused on Scotland. And we're going to welcome two speakers. The first one will be Greg Cool. He's in charge of the MSIP in Dundee, Michelin Science Innovation Park. It was formerly a plant from Michelin, and it's been transformed in something else focused on science and innovation. Is Greg there? Yes, he is.
Yes.
So Greg, I'll let you introduce what is MSIP exactly.
Thank you, Laurent, and good morning, and thanks for this opportunity to talk a little about the Michelin Scotland Innovation Park. The park itself was gifted to this new organisation last year. MSIP is a joint venture between Michelin, Dundee City, and Scottish Enterprise. And it was formed on upon the announcement of the closure of the tyre plant, which had been on the site for about 50 years. The idea and the mission that MSIP has is to build a dynamic and a creative home for innovators, manufacturers, skills leaders, in order to nurture growth and advances in sustainable mobility and decarbonisation. We have a 32-hectare site with about 70,000 square meters of industrial property, which means that we are able to welcome all sorts of organisations of all sorts of size onto the site. From that point of view, we are perhaps considered as a landlord, so we rent out space and we provide services, but we actually do much more than that. As well as the excellent infrastructure, we have a lot of business support in terms of accelerators and incubators and challenges, investment advice, sustainable energy. We have 2 wind turbines on site. We have energy from a waste energy plant just next door, and we also are going to be installing solar capacity very soon. The sustainability, sustainable mobility and decarbonisation remit allows us to work on a wide area of fields. So in terms of energy, we look at energy generation, energy usage, energy storage, and energy efficiency. I would say the two of all the 120 organisations with whom we're in discussion at the moment, quite a majority are involved either in the hydrogen or the battery space, and therefore it's appropriate that we talk with you today. The other thing that we want to offer is a fully functioning skills academy, and that's why we've invited Jim Brown along today to talk more in depth about that. Jim works as a director of the Energy Skills Partnership, but he's also working on behalf of Dundee and Angus College, who are our partner in delivering the Michelin Scotland Innovation Park Skills Academy. 3 things about Energy Skills Partnership, which are also about Jim Brown himself and also about our Skills Academy. We want them, and they are accessible, inspirational, and also practical. We're getting right down to brass tacks here. So I guess it's most appropriate then that I introduce Jim, who will take you through the document that you see in front of you, which is our brochure, and will be published next week, I think, Jim.
Okay, Jim, it's up to you now to introduce Skills Academy at MSIP.
Hello, thank you very much. Yes, so if I just say a little bit about ESP first, if you go back to, yes, that's perfect. ESP is a collaboration of Scotland's colleges and industry partners who are really established to focus on ensuring that we have the right skills for industry for the future. Our areas of focus are energy, engineering, construction, and the whole promotion of these industries and future job roles to youngsters in school. So we have the STEM agenda, so promoting science, technology, engineering and maths Can I have the next slide, please, Ronnie? Key point for ourselves though is we're the interface between government, industry and colleges. So we're the facilitator. We work with government, the various departments around all our areas that we operate in, and we have big focus at the moment obviously on the transition to net zero and the Scottish Government's commitment to net zero by 2045. And hydrogen plays a significant role in that. And where we're aligning in this space is the government announced its updated climate change plan just December last year. They have the energy strategy. They have the Scottish Government hydrogen policy statement that will become a policy later this year. The government have also published the Climate Emergency Skills Action Plan, and hydrogen and energy transition features very heavily in that, and as I touched on, the STEM strategies there. Next slide, please. So how ESP has addressed this is we've established a hydrogen training network, and the map kind of shows you that split, and it's around the key projects that are already up and running or prospective projects that are going to be running across Scotland. So we have 8 colleges who are in there from Orkneys, the Western Isles, but you'll see there that Dundee and Angus College is in there, just in the middle there, DNA College, and that is around the Michelin Innovation Park and the partnership we have with MSIP. Next slide, please. So as ESP, we build capability capacity. We have a number of training networks that are applicable here. So the hydrogen, the wind, and we all know that we need to produce green hydrogen. So this is a key priority here. The automotive training network, and more recently was the heavy duty vehicle training network. And this is informed by Scottish Government, who are quite strong in the view that the heavy duty vehicles will be the initial focus for their policy in taking this forward. And from an activity perspective, we look at the industry awareness, college staff CPD, curriculum, capital equipment, shared resources. So we work with our partners, so Scottish Government, Transport Scotland, Energy Saving Trust, Scottish Funding Council, who fund colleges and universities, and from an industry perspective, we work with the Scottish Hydrogen Fuel Cell Association very closely, and we have an industry working group with them to take forward the developments. And the IMI is the automotive industry body and skills agency, so we work very closely with them with a view to the future. Next slide, please. And with regards to curriculum development, we've been working on this for quite a while, and we're linking with industry, as I say, government, etc., just to understand what needs to be done. And we have got an online awareness course that has been developed and is being very well received. So for an oversight, it gives school pupils, those in industry, undergrads, a real good overview. But this was developed in conjunction with the SGN, which is the gas network operator in Scotland, Orkney College, Dundee and Angus College, and facilitated by ESP. We've just completed development of a professional development award, which is in hydrogen, which is focused on technicians. And this is really key because we've talked about the future skills, and lots of these aren't there, and lots of these will be companies and individuals who will be transitioning over from one sector into hydrogen. So it's very, very important that we do this. So we've been working with industry, as I say, on that. We've also been working with them on an operational safety course, and this is being taken forward now with the oil and gas sector and the qualification organisation there, which is really key to support that transition. And we're currently developing a hydrogen transport online course. If we just scroll down to the next slide, please. So we have a number of shared resources and partnerships. So we're working very closely with Lucas Newla on training equipment and online curriculum. So we've purchased a number of Unitrain, car train, truck train, simulators, and all the online learning that goes along with this, much of which will be based at the MSIP Skills Academy. As we touched on, the courses are there, some others in development. But we have got a huge piece on staff CPD that's coming through this year. and we are going to be taking some of the college staff through to quite a high level of skills in there. But you'll see the final point there, and this is not just for this audience today. There is a real desire to build international links for collaboration, so we welcome that. Veronique, could we go back to the brochure, please? And we could just touch through that. Yeah, forward one yet. If we go down, yeah, perfect. A key focus though on the Skills Academy, and I think it's a real strength of the MSIP and the Skills Academy and the partners, is it's such a positive piece. The Academy isn't just looking at the skills provision on site, it's looking at the capability of all the partners, and that is not just academic partners. It is the college working with 3 universities: St Andrews University, University of Dundee, and Abertay University. So the 3 universities in the wider geographic region, all looking at the future pipeline, curriculum, to ensure that companies have the workforce for the future. It has government, it has public sector agencies. So we're looking at how we can fund students, how we can fund companies, how we can support students both at college and universities into industry. So graduate placements, internships, work experience initiatives. And you will see there it's all around the existing and emerging technologies, and flexible and bespoke. So we have the future talent pipelines that will be running within the Academy itself, but in the academic partners institutions as well. So it's not just about facility on site, which is quite vast and really cutting edge, or it will be when it's opened in September. But it's also about the industry-led aspect to that. So we're engaging with companies as they're talking to MSIP. We're understanding their future people's requirements, and we're entering early discussions about how we meet that need through the partners we have in the Academy. Next slide. I think that's just about me. Yeah, so and it's the comprehensive curriculum as well. So it's not just about the engineering aspect to it. It is the management, leadership, and entrepreneurship, the HR, the legal elements that need to be done there. We've touched that it will be on flexible formats, the funding support, a big focus on supporting the manufacturing, big ambition for the site and many of the companies who are coming there, but also supporting innovation. So there's a real strength from the MSIP and the Academy being co-located, and the academic partners are there. The skills can support the innovation, and the innovation can support the future skills. And I think that's a real strength to this initiative and how we take that forward. And I think the next one will be the final slide before we go into Q&A. Yeah, so the final page there of the brochure is really key. We have the academic partners, we have the industry partners, and we have the supporting partners, which is really the public sector agencies and how we can all pull together to support MSIP itself, the companies who are locating on the park, and ensure we have a flexible, productive and very positive experience for the companies who are coming to the site, and they can get all the support they need to get the skills they need for the future. There's a number of areas that it's focused on. As Greg mentioned, the focus for the site is sustainable mobility and decarbonisation. So the earlier page gave you an overview of this. So it's batteries, battery storage. It is hydrogen is one of the key priorities for this partnership. And that is me, and I would like to thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Jim, for being so enthusiastic. Looks like education and training is a strong asset promoted by the Scottish government.
Yeah, I mean, it's very good in Scotland. We are joined up. The fact everyone's linked in quite closely, and I think that's really key. Scottish Government have been involved with MSIP, as Greg has mentioned. We are embedded within Scottish Government in the various government departments. So we lead on the energy efficiency measures, the hydrogen, the transport, the wind, the renewable energy, all of that. We're in the mix with government, so it's really good, and they do. One of our priorities is influencing, informing government and agencies, and they do listen, and we're able to then respond in a collective way, which I think is really, really positive for the way forward. And MSIP and the Skills Academy kind of encapsulates that kind of spirit as well.
Thank you. If Greg is still there, I would like to hear from him, because he's back to Scotland after spending several years abroad, including in France, because he has a house in this country. Greg, so it's good to be back home, and it was a challenge to be in charge of MSIP in Dundee.
Yes, Laurent, a big challenge. As you know, I spent many years working for Michelin. In the last 4 years, I worked in motorsport, which is a passion of mine, and I was able to marry the two things, job and passion. But the opportunity to lead MSIP was too great to refuse. I think we've got a wonderful team of very dedicated and experienced people, and they work just as hard and are just as passionate as anyone I've met in the motorsport world. But we're also very lucky to have the support of people like Jim, because it's essential that we have the knowledge and the ideas, but also, as you've seen, the enthusiasm and the inspirational kind of approach that Jim brings to the table. When we set up MSIP, yes, it was evident that we had space and we had buildings and we had heating and all of those things that you need to welcome manufacturing organizations on site. But one major part of our offer has to be skills and skills development. And that skills development is for tenants, for companies who come here to manufacture, but it's also for the local area and is a national asset. And eventually we hope to welcome at least 250 learners each year to come through here for short courses, for longer courses, for experience, and to help them move and transition into these new technologies.
Thank you. I would like now to ask to the other panelists, does someone want to make a comment on this initiative or not?
Can I ask a question? It's fantastic and great to see Scotland leading the way in hydrogen again. I would say that's really positive. How do you see the international collaboration piece working? How do you get engagement, and how do you think that can work?
Shall I come in there, Greg?
Yes, on you go, Jim. Thank you.
It is happening already, but it's ad hoc. It's not in a joined up way. So we're bumping into people in conferences, and we're sort of following up on these conversations, and we're getting leads from other people. So if you start speaking to industry, they're quite good at telling you who they're working with. But I'm looking at yourself, actually, Diana, and thinking the observatory has probably got a key role to play in doing some of this joining up. And we just need to make sure we get the partners all around the table, and it's the comms piece that's really key. And because hydrogen is still in quite early phase, it's quite critical actually to do that now before we start to develop a whole web of organizations and initiatives, and it would be really good, based on experience in other sectors, to really tie this down quite early on and develop these partnerships. So I am looking to have a conversation with you later on.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the panel wants to react? Yes, no? Well, if not, going now to turn the floor to Bruno Jamet, just in order to know if I have some questions from the audience.
Yes, two questions. One is serious, one very serious also. The first is so about partnerships in Europe and France. It's quite the same question. Are you interested in? And also, which kind of partnerships?
Well, from my perspective, the answer is yes. And the second aspect of that would be constructive partnerships with real action and real outcomes. We're not keen on just talking about things, we're keen to do things and deliver curriculum. Our focus for the education side, both for college and universities, is around making sure the curriculum's in place, the capabilities there, the capacities there. It's about demand-led provision. It's ensuring that companies have the skills they need in the future. If we can have an international programme that would align that, it would simplify things, it would support get the buy-in from the oil and gas sector to allow that transition piece and other sectors. And there's some work going on in that in Scotland that we could learn from. We have the Energy Skills Alliance is looking at that oil and gas transition to net zero and is looking at some of these challenges. But there are phenomenal challenges, and to me they're unnecessary challenges and barriers, and I think that they shouldn't be there. But we just need some sensible people around the table working together with the solutions, really.
Okay, the second question is for maybe a few words in French. It's a question of someone who knows, probably you can speak French.
Great, perfectly French.
Oui, merci. Alors, comme je vous ai dit, et comme disait Jim à l'instant, on souhaite mettre en place des solutions pratiques et délivrer sur nos promesses. Donc, il y a beaucoup de discussions, mais on cherche des discussions propices qui ont un objectif et une fin bien définie. Voilà.
Thank you for speaking French just a little bit. And it's a nice transition because now we move on with the next part. It's about the situation in France. And we're online now with Stéphanie Paysan from France Hydrogène. Hello, Stéphanie.
Hello, Laurent.
You're head of communication at the National Hydrogen Association in France. What we can say first is that education and training is one of the highest priorities for the French National Hydrogen Plan.
Yeah, the national strategy for the hydrogen development raises hydrogen as a strategic industry for France. The objective is clear and shared between the state and the industrial stakeholder, is to succeed in developing a competitive French sector hydrogen within 10 years, creating values and jobs in territories. And there are three priorities for this ambitious plan. One is to accelerate the investment for decarbonized and competitive French industry. Two is to develop the professional mobilities. And three is to go on working on research, innovation, and developing skills. By 2030, more than 100,000 jobs will be created in France in the hydrogen sector. This potential for creating values, and jobs concern the entire value chain being deployed. So skills development by education and training is really a strategic issue identified by the national strategy.
Before becoming France Hydrogène, I just remind that the former name of the association was AFIPAC. You did a fantastic job because you tried to identify the whole value chain from production to storage and go through use cases. So in addition of that, you made interviews with some key players just in order to know what are their needs for education, training, and so on. So what are the learnings finally?
Yeah, after working on the hydrogen value chain, France Hydrogène identified that defining skills and jobs related to this value chain would be very useful in order to develop a strong hydrogen sector in France and achieve the goals of the national hydrogen strategy. With a study based on reports already realized by national agencies and local authorities, completed, as you said it, by interviews and of industrial stakeholders, we realized a big database of jobs and skills that are necessary for the development of a strong national industrial sector. This database identified 84 jobs qualified with training degrees, technical and soft skills, level of knowledge about hydrogen, etc. First observation of this work, the hydrogen sector use existing traits and skills to which hydrogen coloration must be added. This hydrogen coloration is a more or less important specialization currently provided inside companies, as there is currently a lack of adapted initiative training offer. As the sector is in the industrialization phase, design activities are predominant. Multi-field engineers are needed, and a lot of jobs in the database are accessible by profile with scientific master level degrees. These engineers have to master the technical field related to hydrogen, such as electrical engineering, fluid mechanics, and quality, safety, environment experts, which are very needed.
So some industrial sectors already offer the skills you're looking for, especially for engineers, but there is a tension because everybody wants the same engineers, in fact.
Yeah, in fact, the job are not really new. The job in the hydrogen sector calls on technical skills that are already in great demand by other industrial sectors. And 17 jobs have already been identified under strain. More generally, the hydrogen sector suffers from the lack of attractiveness of industrial sectors. But I think that we need to communicate on these issues because hydrogen can change the image and perception of industry in France and contribute to give attractiveness to these industrial sectors.
Sure, people may like work in the industry, of course. So we will need some engineers, of course, but not only, because we will also need some technicians for maintenance purposes.
Yeah, with the rise of technologies and deployment of hydrogen production and distribution facilities in several ecosystem in France, it will require in the short term technician and operators profile with a strong operational mastery of mechanics, metrology, and electrical engineering.
Okay, I love the word coloration of hydrogen, so that means more hydrogen in education. What do you plan to do to convince universities or high schools to put some more hydrogen content?
In fact, developing skills and career opportunities in the hydrogen sector in France is a strategic issue, and we need to make the strategic issue that match with the reality of business and industry. Efforts must immediately be focused on the development of training courses to overcome the risk of a shortage of know-how. So our next step is to work to define the level of the hydrogen coloration, which will be necessary to adapt the existing training and courses. This is our next step.
And if you allow me to do so, I would like to ask you a last question. What do you think of Teamview H2 Academy? Because it's very unique.
Yeah, and I think the Teamview H2 Academy is the perfect example of the involvement of industrial stakeholder in this very important issue of education and training. Teamview is an OEM who will set up a fuel cell gigafactory near Lyon, and will need skills and will offer jobs in a very near future. So they really take the problem now, and they are fully involved in these issues of training and education. Really a great... initiative.
Thank you for all these explanations. I just remind that there is a website, France Hydrogène, and you can download a white paper explaining all this, all the study you made for the job of the future. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Laurent. Bye.
Thank you very much, Laurent.
Okay, so this interview has been recorded earlier because Stephanie was not available today to attend live in this webinar. So, as I said, you can download the white paper, and I would like to say, to tell our attendee that it will be possible to read all the presentation on the website of Hydrogen Business for Climate. Okay, so we carry on. I would like to hear from Diana Rain. Do you have a comment on what's being told by Stéphanie Paysan and all the work which has been done in France for education training and to make in order that identify the expectation of companies and to put education courses in France?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really encouraged to see the level of detail that France has gone to right down to individual roles, technician roles, and all the other roles that are going to be needed. So it's encouraging to see that mapping and to see the importance of skills and education and filling the gap in a broader strategy. So we see a lot of countries with their own hydrogen strategies now coming out. But I'm not sure necessarily that the education and training piece has been looked at in the detail that's required. So I think that's really encouraging.
Thank you. We carry on now with the next presentation. I would like to welcome Rasheed from Teamview. So, as I said earlier, you're head of human resources, and you just heard what said Stéphanie Paysan about Teamview H2 Academy. It's a perfect example of what should be done by companies in order to promote education and training. So the floor is yours, Rasheed. So tell us please about this, tell us more about this initiative.
Thank you very much. And I can only agree and build on what Stéphanie Paysan has been saying. So Teamview, you can go on the first slide. Teamview, we are an hydrogen system innovation partner. We are more than 400 today. We were a startup. Now we are starting to be a bigger company. So our ambition is to accelerate the zero emission mobility, and this is what we offer to our customer. We provide experience, more than 4 million kilometers of on-road vehicles, and more than 30 years of experience combined in fuel cell testing and vehicle integration. So to be able to facilitate this transition, the decarbonization of the mobility, the effort has to be wide and global. And this is why we have been structuring, building the Teamview Hydrogen Academy, working on the network with experts, industrial experts within other companies, but also with universities and school partnership. In France, we can say that there is a massive investment. Next slide. Thank you. In France, we see that there is a massive investment. Just for France, we've seen 7 billion euro investment in the fuel cell sector. So if you can go on the next slide. Thank you. So to meet the challenges of the H2 sector, Teamview and their partners need to develop diverse and varied skills, some of which are not very present on the market today. And if we want to become the leader of the technology, first of all, we need to become the leader of the skill and the expertise. So this is why we have structured our ambition with 3 different chapters. The first one, it is expertise, because nowadays we have some experts and we need to develop their competencies in the hydrogen mobility to complete and strengthen their expertise and enable them to spread and share them with within the company, but also with universities. The second one, the second chapter, will be continuous training. It's to support the business evolution, we need, as Stephanie said, we need to transfer some skills to the fuel cell sector. So we are talking about employability and continuous training modules adapted to the need of the company. And the third chapter is to prepare the future with apprentice and graduate programs. To provide you some concrete example, with our partner, we have been creating an expert network, enable them to train themselves, being even more expert, but also starting to prepare the transfer of this expertise, working on how to be a trainer, industrial to universities, but also universities to the industry. So by now we are developing more than 10 different modules that will be delivered by the end of 2021. On the second chapter, we need to stand out the competencies of our employees within Teamview, but also within the network. So we've been preparing, for example, the operator of the future. We are working in all categories, so within manufacturing, R&I, engineering, more than 15 modules that will be created by the end of this year. And to prepare the future, we've developed internship and apprenticeship programs for recruitment, but also for our partners. We are also working with universities in some projects like the Monaco Solar or Energy Boat Challenge to, I would say, help, as Stephanie mentioned, the vision of what what students have from the fuel cell sector. We have been also working on graduate programs to prepare the next generation of our new joiners. So we've seen several initiatives, and these initiatives need to be replicated. We have seen the MSIP, for example, but even others are welcome to join our initiative or to work all together.
Thank you, Rasheed. It's very impressive. Do you know if other competitors or more generally companies involved in hydrogen business try to do the same thing, try to promote education and training for their new employers?
I think it is the right moment to work on this initiative, and all industrials should start thinking of what would be their need in terms of competencies, of skills that will make the difference or that will help to accelerate this initiative. So we've seen other initiatives, and we have companies, industries that are contacting us to join this adventure.
So you mentioned MSIP. Maybe Jim or Anne or Greg want to make a comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, Rasheed, that's really quite exciting what you're doing there, and it aligns very closely with what we're doing as ESP, but also with MSIP Skills Academy. I think it'd be good to have a call offline to follow up on this. We've done something. I think we've done 12 new units this year, online learning, a new online learning program. We're very much ESP. The P in ESP stands for partnership. Or it used to stand for partnership. So we are very, very keen to work with key partners who have obviously got the enthusiasm that you have as well, that I think matches ours.
I would be glad to.
I turn the floor again to the other panelists. Does someone else want to make a comment? Maybe Robin Roche, because you're involved in education at the UTBM in Belfort. We will discuss later on what you're doing, but as a third chair, maybe a comment on this initiative?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting initiative, of course, and based on our interactions with the different companies, we see that there's really a lot of interest and needs in terms of training of employees. And, for example, we see that for strong partnerships with EDF and General Electric that we have here at UTBM they also are interested in hydrogen, of course. So, yeah, it's clearly an interesting.
Thank you. Any more reactions in the panel? Yes, no? Okay, so I turn the floor, if no more comments, to Bruno Jamet to check if we have some questions from the audience. Bruno, you are there?
Yes, the computer is very slow today. No questions from participants.
No questions. So let me ask one to Rasheed. Rasheed, so the H2 Academy is in France. You will have your first plant, your first factory near Lyon, but we know that you will have some other locations in the US or in Asia. Do you plan to duplicate this kind of academy later on in other countries?
So, as you mentioned, we will have what we aim to be the biggest fuel cell plant in Europe, and the academy will have his position in this plant. We already have been contacted by universities, so American universities, German universities, and even others. So of course we are looking at how can we formalize other partnership, and it is not something that we will I would say avoid, because as I mentioned, more we are to dig of what will be the expertise of the future, more we will be able to accelerate this transition.
Thank you. We come now to the next part, the situation in the region Bourgogne-Franche-Comté. And we will have two speakers in this session, and we start with Robin Roche. As I said, you are working for the UTBM, so it's a technical university at Belfort-Montbéliard. You're in charge of FMTO ST, which is a lab with expertise in the field of hydrogen. So please tell us what you're doing in terms of education and training on hydrogen for companies or.
So as an introductory part, I would say that we've had some over 20 years of experience in fuel cell and hydrogen research, and we've been slowly transferring this knowledge to our students and partners. So that means that, for example, we've had short training sessions with our students on fuel cells, including practical work for over 10 years. And over the past few years, we've increased this share by also integrating some courses on electrolysis, for example, but also hydrogen storage. So that takes different forms. This is mostly for our engineering students, for example, in the energy specialty, but also in others, like in mechanics, for example. Then there's another type of training that we provide that are really focused on our industrial partners, where we design some short-term courses over 1, 2, 3 days that are really designed to answer a specific need. They can be an introduction to hydrogen, or they can be very specific, very technical in some cases. And we also have some summer schools that are usually designed to also transfer the knowledge that we generate through our research, mostly at the doctoral level. For example, I was interested to see in one of the slides of Diana, I think it was, that it mentioned the high schools, which is a project we participated in a few years ago through FC Lab.
Okay, do you have some special requests from companies, because some companies might be interested by the expertise you have?
So some very different requests. We have some new players in the field of hydrogen that are really interested in getting more knowledge in general. But we also have some requests from large companies, some also small SMEs. And in this case, sometimes it's very technical. what they want to really go deep into the technical details of how some things work on the fuel cells, the hydrogen, the aging, the diagnostics and prognostics, so very technical details. And usually that's where we try to transfer our knowledge from research, especially because we have a lot of experimental facilities that enable us to do that.
Earlier we discussed mapping. Did you have a look on what's being done in other countries, other universities such as UTBM, in order to adapt education and training?
Yeah, of course, and that's why we see that the work that was done by France Hydrogène and also the FCH Observatory is really an extremely useful tool. So we started before these tools existed, so it was a bit more difficult. And what we saw is that there are some initiatives here and there, but as was mentioned by Stephanie also, hydrogen is usually not the only skill that's required. It's in addition to other things like electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and so on. So that's why we chose to really amplify the coloration, that was the term that was used, of hydrogen in our existing curriculum. And that's why we chose this option, actually. Maybe in the future we'll have dedicated programs. This is in the works, but not really yet. And well, again, we also can answer some specific needs based on our interactions with the companies, especially because we have a very active ecosystem here in the Bourgogne-Franche-Comté region, and also other requests that we may receive from other companies or universities we have partnerships with.
UTBM has been working on hydrogen for years, almost decades. Are you surprised by this tremendous move to hydrogen and green hydrogen? We can see news every day on this topic in all fields, mobility, stationary, and so on. Are you surprised by all this?
Not really. Actually, there's been several, I would say, false starts. I'm not sure this is the correct English terms, but several times in the past, everybody thought, okay, this is the time for hydrogen. It wasn't really at that time then, but now I think this is really the time for hydrogen for multiple reasons, and we see that really the fact that the industry is not really moving to mass production and massive use of hydrogen is really a sign that now it's the time for hydrogen. Maybe it wasn't the case before, but today it is, I think.
One word about the students, because they are the future engineers who will be working for companies. Are they happy? Do they have the awareness to contribute to energy transition? Are they happy of that, to be in that kind of business?
Actually, they actually ask us to increase the share of hydrogen in what we're doing, and they've been asking that for a few years. That's why also we started doing that a few years ago. And really, we see that the students are more and more concerned about how they can have an impact on this energy transition and move to zero carbon, net zero carbon goal. So yeah, they really want to see how these hydrogen technologies work, what they can do about it, and especially how they can contribute to this to the industry, especially when they graduate.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Does anyone in the panel wants to make a comment, or do we have any reactions amongst our speakers this morning? Yes, no? Well, if not, in that case, let's move on with the next speaker, who is Marion Savoy. Marion is head of communication at the group Rougeot. It's a construction work group, but they have a subsidiary called Rougeot Energy. A few words, maybe, Marion, to start and to introduce this company.
Hello, Laurent. Hello, everybody. So, to introduce rapidly Rougeot Energy, we are one of the French pioneers in hydrogen sector, aiming to create green hydrogen ecosystems for local communities and industry as well. We operate from start to finish across the entire hydrogen value chain, from engineers and partnership building to hydrogen refueling station construction. Such as you may know, the Dijon hydrogen ecosystem, one of the biggest European projects to produce and provide local green hydrogen for 44 garbage trucks and 180 buses within 2030. So it's a big project for Rouge Énergie. And the other part of Rouge Énergie is another project. We also support the ISTI project. ISTI is a future laboratory and expertise center for testing and certifying hydrogen storage system to meet regulatory requirements. So that's Rouge Énergie today.
Okay, so Rouge is sponsoring an education course with a university in Bourgogne-Franche-Comté. It's a master degree.
Exactly. So we support this master, firstly, for each project to introduce it. So why we do that? Rouge Énergie works on 3 pillars: economic, technical, and social issues. So Rouge Énergie is concerned about the social aspect. So indeed, hydrogen makes new jobs appear. So therefore, it's important for us to support the training and young people who choose hydrogen course and specialization. It's new jobs, so that's why we want to support them. And as a player in this hydrogen sector, we must move into training to meet our future need, actually. So our partnership with the University of Franche-Comté, and especially with the Hydrogen Energy Master, so it's a very specialized, is seen for us as an investment, because we financially support the implementation of this master's degree, and on our return on investment is to hire skilled people to operate properly on our chain value. So that's why Rouge Énergie signed an agreement of 5 years with the Technical Sciences and Industrial Management faculty in Belfort-Montbéliard.
So you're involved in education. We have seen that Teamview is promoting a H2 Academy. So you think it's the role of companies to help the society and to help about education, to make in order to have better engineers?
Exactly, we have to support trainings, education in our territory, because, as we said before, we have new jobs, and some people want to move in new jobs, but some young people need to be trained, and it's quite technical. So it's hydrogen, but as Robin said before, it's not only hydrogen, it's all the ecosystem. So we have mechanical port, for instance. So, and for instance, for ISTI project, the future laboratory and expertise centers for testing hydrogen systems, we need to recruit engineers and technicians who will be able to test industrial hydrogen storage component. So it's a big challenge, and we have to develop this. And as a Burgundian company, we invest in University of Franche-Comté because we want to develop staff loyalty to keep our future trained engineers in our territory by offering them local jobs, because it's innovation. So we need to invest on training. So that's make a lot of sense for us.
Thank you, Marion. So today, Rouge Énergie is still a small company because it's been created only a few years ago. But of course, with the ambition, with all projects, the size is going to grow in the next years.
Yeah, normally, yes. Actually, we have different branches. So the first one, and it was the first created, was Shetty in Dijon, and they are in this company, we recruit some engineers to build project for local communities, like Metz, Métropole, like Dijon, Dole, etc. And after we have another part, which is to build project. So with the hard part of the construction. Yeah.
Thank you, Marion. I would like now to turn the floor to Bruno Jamet, just in order to know if we have some questions from the audience.
Yes, there are two questions. The first is for Robin Roche. What about training for people who have lost their jobs or looking for a professional reconversion? And is there something that already exists at UTBM?
There are some programs that exist. I'm not sure it's specifically for that, but I should ask to several of my colleagues, and perhaps this person can contact me, and we can get in touch and give him or her an answer.
Okay, and the second question is, what is your thought generally for the panel about informing, training, and raising public awareness, including societal acceptance?
Wow, such a question. Who wants to enter among the panelists still there? Does anyone want to comment?
Perhaps I can. If well, we have also some social scientists in our research laboratories, so we know for sure that this is a big concern, especially in terms of acceptance, because of the risks we all know with hydrogen. So yeah, clearly it's something we should work on. But I think that the training is really the most important part. If people know what really this is about, and it's not just something they hear in the news once every 6 months, then we'll have already made lots of progress, I think.
Diana, please.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I do think it's a much bigger issue, this whole discussion around awareness. I think every stakeholder has a part to play in that. Industry has a part to play. The education sector has a part to play, and I think governments have a part to play as well in raising awareness and understanding of hydrogen, in our future economies. So I don't think there's a silver bullet there.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Bruno. We come now to the next and last part of this webinar. And we come to the last part of this webinar. We're going to hear from a French startup called Live. We're online with Nolwenn Béléguic, Head of Communication. Hello, Nolwenn.
Hello, Laurent.
Thanks for joining us. So maybe a few words to introduce your young company.
Yes, Live is a producer and a supplier of green and renewable hydrogen for mobility and for industry.
Okay, so can you please tell us about the profile of the new employees joining you at the moment?
Yes, we have already on board all the staff needed to deploy hydrogen plants. That means engineer, of course, who are experts in the gas process. Hydrogen is a gas, and expert in electrolyzer, in compressor, in this other chain of production, in instrumentation, in control systems, expert in the deployment of these industrial operations. That means experts in safety questions, in maintenance, expert in the supply chain. But we have also on board people that work for our customer, the communities, the industry sector. That means business developers and also people that work on legal stuff, on financial stuff, expert of the regulation. And we have a lot of projects, and we need to increase this team because we have a lot of plants that are deploying in that we are deploying in France and in Europe. That means all these profiles that I mentioned are needed at life to increase.
And are you looking for some specific skills also?
Yes, we need specific skills. We need hard skills and soft skills that are very important too. And we need a lot of people. 80 months ago we were about 10. Today we are 50, and we will be 100 in 6 months. And we need the technical profiles that I mentioned at the start of my speak. But we especially need change makers. People who want to contribute truly and actively to the energy transition, people who work for the future of their children. A lot of our employees come from very big groups or very big companies, some of them from oil and gas companies, which did not really put the environmental mission at the heart of their organization, and which did not necessarily have an agile organization. That's why the people that join us and that we are recruiting must deconstruct the way they worked before, to adopt a new way of working that permit us to address the urgency, the emergency of doing something good for the next generation.
Okay, so jobs at life for a better life. So now let's talk about your clients. Do you feel they need more education, more training on hydrogen?
Yes, hydrogen, as you know, is a complex question. Choose hydrogen is not only a technical choice, it's mostly a political view, a real desire to give up fossil fuels or fossil gas. That means a new relationship to energy. And this raises, of course, economic questions, questions related to investments. And at life, we know the different mechanisms that make it possible to request funding support or subsidies. And we can help the communities and the industries to do it. And of course, we must also train our clients, our customers, in questions concerning the production of hydrogen, what is clean, what is not clean, question about the distribution of hydrogen, the operation of vehicles, and concerning the maintenance, etc. And a whole bunch of questions that we know how to answer, of course, even if they are not directly in our scope. But it's true that today many players are taking a position on this hydrogen subject, and it's difficult for our customer to know who is doing what in this hydrogen new value chain. And we are helping us to understand. We are helping them to understand these new markets and to do their choice properly.
So let's say you're a hydrogen enabler, and then you can help. Thank you, Nolwenn, for being with us. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, so we had to record with Nolwenn yesterday because she was not available to be live with us on this webinar. So we come to the end of this conference. Before concluding, I don't know if someone in the panel wants to make a comment on the opinion of this startup live, which is doing a lot of things already since it's being created. If nobody wants to make a comment, so let's come to the end. And we're going to discuss the next step. Of course, it's a physical event. As you know, there has been a digital edition of Hydrogen Business for Climate in January. So we hope to see you in September 29 and 30 physically, of course, but there will be as well a digital access, because we know that due to the COVID, maybe you won't be able to travel if you come from a foreign country. So it will be possible also to attend in a digital way. You will find as soon as possible the details on the website. So this is for the schedule. Let's carry on now with some other items, and we have our guest speaker, Mike Horn. Of course, I think you know him. He's an explorer. It's a kind of Indiana Jones, but with very sensible to environment. And if you see him with a helmet and like a racer, it's because he's going to participate to the Dakar Rally Raid in 2023 with a hydrogen buggy, and this vehicle is being made with a fuel cell and a storage tank with hydrogen inside in the region Bourgogne-Franche-Comté, thanks to a partnership with Vaison Sport, which is a company specialized in preparation of rally raid vehicles, and the CEA, which is an organism, research organism with expertise in the field of hydrogen. And so Mike Horn is going to partner with Cyril Després, which is a very famous pilot who has won several times the Dakar, and together their challenge is to win with a hydrogen vehicle. And Mike Horn will be with us, and he will make a presentation, I would say a show. It will be, of course, talking about hydrogen environment. So I'm very happy to welcome him. I think it will be a thrilling experience to hear from Mike on the first day of this event on September 29. And as you can see, the program of this conference with roundtables, workshops, and of course visits and B2B meetings. So next slide. Yes, Veronique. So there is early bird tariff to register for the conference. So you still have a few days left before the closure at the end of this month. Well, that's all on my side. I hope that you have appreciated this webinar. We had some nice speakers, nice content, and of course it will be the same if you attend to our physical event on September. We're still building, of course, the rentables and workshops, but I can guarantee we have a superb guest speaker, and we have some nice speakers as well. So just check on the website, and you will have very soon all the details about this. I would like to say have a nice day, and see you soon, of course, to discuss hydrogen.